Greetings, everybody. This is Dr. Christopher Ryan coming to you from Barcelona. This is a big episode. This is a very big episode. The guest this week is Neal Brennan, who is probably best known for his role in co-writing the Dave Chappelle Show. He may have co-created it as well. I'm not sure. I should look up those credits. But he definitely co-wrote it and wrote a lot of stuff with Dave Chappelle over the years. Those of you who've been living on Saturn for the last 10 years may not know that Dave Chappelle is one of the most successful, admired comedians of the last decade or two, and had the most successful show on TV ever, I believe. Judged by, how did they judge it? By DVD sales or something, I don't know. Anyway, phenomenally clever, intelligent, and as you'll hear, profound guy, Neal Brennan. He's recently done a special on Netflix called Three Mics, which I spoke about on this podcast before I had any clue that Neal would possibly agree to be on my podcast. But it's just so good. You really have to see it. Anyway, Neal Brennan is the guest. He's amazing. And before I get on to other things and forget about it, I want to thank Malcolm Fleischman for, again, hooking me up with an amazing guest. Malcolm's a producer on The Young Turks, and he and I became buddies a few years ago when I did a few segments on there, and ever since then, when he thinks of somebody particularly intelligent and deep thinking for some reason, he hooks them up with me, and often they agree to be on the podcast. So I'm in deep gratitude to Malcolm, as always. What else? The other big news in this, to be announced on this episode, is that Tangentially Reading is ready to be pre-ordered, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. The podcast coming to you in book form. They'll be ready to ship out in early December, I believe. So there'll be a great Christmas gift. If there's anyone in your life who doesn't get why podcasts are interesting, or at least why this one may be interesting to you, the book is a great way to introduce them to the concept. It's excerpts from some of the best episodes that we've done so far. Of course, I think every episode is fantastic, and in future volumes, if this one sells well enough, we'll be doing a volume probably once a year. But this is a really special project because not only is it excerpts from some of the most fascinating conversations I've had with people, but the whole thing has been put together by the community of people who are involved with this podcast. I'm talking about you, the listeners. So the art in the book is done by one of our listeners, Anna McDade. The transcripts have been done by a team of different listeners. People did parts of episodes. Some people did several episodes. The editing has been done by people who listen to the podcast. The design, the page layouts, the choice of which interviews or conversations to include. All these decisions really have been made by people other than me. And I'm thrilled about that. So this is not a book by me. This is a book in which I appear as a character, I guess, an instigator, a shit stirrer of sorts, but it's not my book. It's really your book. And so we're selling it as cheaply as possible. It's $20 a volume. And there are a bunch of different bonus things. If you buy 5 or 10, I'm going to do a Skype call with people, and I forget what the different levels are, but if you buy a certain number of books, we can meet up in LA, have a beer, there are all sorts of like little bonus things like that. So it's sort of a Kickstarter deal, but basically what we're doing is trying to gauge how many books to print up in the first printing based upon your interest. So if you're interested, if you think it's something that you'd like, if it's something that would be a good gift, definitely please jump right on it and order a copy or several copies as soon as possible, so that we can make sure we print up enough and get this thing rolling. But where, Chris? Where can I order a copy of Tangentially Reading? I hear people asking. Well, go to tangentiallyspeaking.com and you'll see the image of the book in the right banner. Click on that and it'll take you right to the website. If you want to go to the website directly, it's misfitpress.co/lp/tangentially reading, which, I don't know, that seems like a lot of hassle. So I am looking and confirming. Yes, if you just type in tangentiallyreading.com, it'll take you right to the site. So lots of ways to get there. All you need to remember is that the name of the book is Tangentially Reading, and Google that or go to tangentiallyreading.com or just through my site. You'll see the ad. So please order a bunch of those books. Make us all happy. Keep this thing rolling, because as you may know, my deepest ambition in life is to be a writer who doesn't actually have to do that much writing. And this would make it all come true, because see, then I could just put out one of these books every year with the best excerpts from the podcast, and I could just call myself a writer and go around handing out books like I do now, but I wouldn't have to really sit around and write too much. But speaking of writing, I am going to do some writing. I'm going to finish this fucking book, Civilized to Death, that you've heard me talk about so much over the years, because the time is ripe. I think one of the reasons I've been sort of delaying is like a subconscious sense that the world wasn't quite ready to hear the message that I want to send in this book. And now I'm getting the strong sense that the world is ready to hear it. So I'm going to finish that book and get it out this summer probably, because, yeah, I think the world is ready to hear the message that civilization may not be all it's been cracked up to be. Okay, what else? I'm in Barcelona. It's a shitstorm over here. All this independence happening. A lot of demonstrations in the street. Helicopters hovering overhead every fucking day. Meanwhile, Cassie and I are going through our apartment, which is just full of chaos of all this stuff that we accumulated over the years, and we're packing everything up and throwing away a lot. I threw away hundreds of books the other day, which, oh man, that was hard. Books and camping gear are my two weak points when it comes to materialism. Yeah, those are two things that I definitely have trouble not accumulating. And I do the Kindle thing, but honestly, I forget that I have all these books in the Kindle and I don't get around to reading them very often. So I don't know, maybe I have to learn a new discipline, or maybe I'm just tired of looking into screens. You know, I really like holding a book in my hands. But yeah, anyway, so there's a lot going on here, a lot of change. It's interesting to be moving out of this city I've been identified with for 27 years, at the same time that the city itself is moving out of the country it's been identified with for centuries. So there seems to be a universal convergence of sorts happening. I know I sort of romanticize my life in Spain sometimes. Some of you Americans have been like, yeah, Chris is always talking about how great Spain is and what you're seeing in America sucks. And yeah, I know I do tend to do that. But there are things that annoy me about Spain too. Have no fear. One of them is, I was thinking about recently, is that the people here don't like to cook food very much. Everything seems to be raw or half raw. It's like everything's undercooked, in my opinion. And it's interesting. I've been thinking about how people who are normally very non-judgmental and live and let live type people, when it comes to meat, they get very judgmental. They feel very comfortable being judgmental about people who like their meat cooked. I don't really understand that. It's a strange phenomenon. I was having dinner the other night with someone, and we were eating beef, and I said, "Oh, is there a piece that's more well done?" Because it was it was raw. I mean, it looked like it had just been hit by a car. It was terrible, and the one I said, "Yeah, I like my beef pretty well done," and she said, "Oh, you obviously weren't raised well." And I was like, "What?" Now she was kidding, of course, but still, it was like, it's a funny thing how free people are. Oh, you're ruining a perfectly good piece of meat, as if you're like insulting the animal somehow by cooking the meat. And I get it, I guess. I mean, I like vegetables crispy and just lightly steamed. I like pasta al dente, But the thing is, I have worked in a meat processing plant. Fish, to be specific, but I guess fish is meat of a sort, right? Dead animals. And I've seen the fucking worms. I've seen the shit that's in dead animals. I mean, live animals have fucking worms in them. So when we die and we can't defend against them anymore, then the fucking worms take over. I don't want to eat the worms. And mad cow disease? Whatever happened to that? That was like a huge thing for a while, and now nobody talks about it anymore. Anyway, I mean, really, I guess I should probably not eat meat, or I should hunt for my meat the way Joe Rogan does. But barring that, eating meat that comes from these disgusting factory farms full of feces and fear, I guess I just try to cook some of that shit away. The E. coli and the salmonella and whatever else is smeared all over meat. Anyway, make sure to get yourself a copy of Tangentially Reading, featuring conversations with the great Joe Rogan, Duncan Trussell, Mary Roach, fascinating Andrew Weil, God, who else? Neil Strauss, so many, Josh Fox, fascinating people, really interesting people that I'm so fucking thrilled to consider friends. Really, everybody who's in this first volume, is either was a friend and came on the podcast or became a friend after. So I'm just fucking thrilled, and I hope you will be too. So please go out and get a copy right away. And in the meantime, I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with Neal Brennan, who, I gotta say, I don't know why he agreed to do the podcast. There are a lot of people come on the podcast. They have something to sell. They have a perspective that they're trying to get out into the world. That they've got an agenda, and it's a cool agenda. I rarely, if ever, have people on the podcast, just because they're trying to sell something. You'll notice there's been virtually no one on the podcast who's like, and sign up for my 10 video course, in self-actualization. Like those people, I get emails from them all the time. They all want to come on the podcast and push their products, and I'm sure some of those products are fine, but I'm not trying to bring you those kind of people. I'm trying to bring you people who either don't have a microphone or are like undiscovered, just really interesting people with a story to tell, or fascinating people who are willing to just talk and not try to, sell whatever their latest movie is or whatever. In the case of Neal Brennan, he had absolutely nothing to gain from being on this podcast. The dude is rich, he's famous, he's won everything he could possibly want to win. He hangs out with Chris Rock and Louis C.K. He writes for Saturday Night Live. He's, whatever. Every door is open to him. And there's no door that this podcast is going to suddenly help him get through. So it was just, I don't know why he did the podcast, honestly. He'd never met me. We're not pals. But afterwards, when I thanked him, and I was at his house, that's the other thing, he invites me to his home. I'm at his house, and as I was thanking him, when I was leaving, I said, man, there's really no reason for you to do this. I really appreciate it. And he said, we're kindred spirits. Or maybe kindred souls, but kindred something. I thought, well, that's beautiful. So I'm very proud to be a kindred spirit of this guy, because he's a very impressive person.
Working man's out on the street. Police are still on the beat. We feed our people beans and rice, but no one seems to see the light. And the world, it burns tonight. Your baby's on the street.
All right, I'm going to play you out with a tune, and I don't remember where this tune came from. I think it may be a listener who sent it to me, and may actually be the artist, Justin Landing. So, Justin, if you're listening to this, thank you, and I'm sorry I forgot that you sent this to me. I have no idea. People send me stuff, I listen to it, I like it, I throw it into a file, and then the years go by. So anyway, the song's called Burns Tonight, and it's by Justin Anding, Anding. Very simple, very sweet, and quite profound. Hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to order that book. Thanks. Bye.